Everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first event of the second day of Cities in the Loop, the event held by Campus Party about circular economy in the city. So, let me just briefly introduce myself. I am Filippo Lubrano. I am a consultant in internationalization um, and innovation management. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you Slavko Bevanda, which is the CPTO and COO of ShareNow. CPTO stands for Chief Product and Technology Officer of ShareNow, which is the Europe leading free-floating car sharing provider. A couple of years ago, Slavko was appointed responsible for the product development of the company's business and customer application, as well as cloud solutions, national and international fleet management, including logistics, damage, and claims. Before joining this new car sharing business, he was product manager at Smart and held numerous positions within the Daimler and in the first decade of the years 2000. So thanks a lot for joining us, Slavko.
Thank you, Filippo. Thank you for having me with you. So it's great to be here and really a pleasure.
Great. So since the schedule is pretty tight, I would just suggest to dive in immediately into our topics. We all know where car sharing originates. So cars are active around 6% of our waking time. So there's a huge potential for turning the highly inefficient process of car ownership into something different, which is car sharing precisely. So what is ShareNow's unique selling point in this market that has become highly competitive in these years?
The USP from my side is clearly, from our perspective, is the huge flexibility we are offering our customers. Means you can pick up a car wherever you want it to have it within a defined business area, and you can as well drop it at any point in time when you want to give it back to us. And we have full flexibility. We are offering minute-based rentals, starting with minute-based, going over our packages, up to 30-day rentals, what we can offer here. And the approach and our vision is clearly, as you said, let's reduce the car ownership. This is the way that's what we clearly want to achieve and improve the way of living in the cities.
Yeah, absolutely. Fully agree on that. By the way, I just remind that we have, of course, a comment section, and we will be able to see all the comments. So if you have any questions, of course, I would be more than open to share with Slavko as well. Slavko, do you see any chance to spread this sharing business also to other vehicles other than the ones you already moved to, such as, for example, trucks in the future?
Yes, of course. There are huge and plenty of opportunities from our side. As you said, today we are running cars. We have a huge variety of models and brands in our fleet. But beside that, the technology and the platform we have built with our customer-facing application, plus the back-end tools to manage the assets, it's easily to connect trucks, vans, scooters, whatever you have in mind. And this is as well one of our targets and ambitions for the near future or close future, to get and integrate other forms of mobility or work here with partners. That's where we're really open. Yeah. So there are a lot of opportunities here.
Great. So we are in the sharing economy area as a whole, I would say. What do you think is the potential value added of a car sharing company in order to build up a new mindset regarding mobility and the approach of sustainability?
Very, very good question. Cardigo, finally, in the past, was founded in 2008. Yeah, when that was clearly the point where the car sharing mobility started. Yeah, we learned a lot during the last decade from Drive Now and Cardigo perspective. Yeah, what we can do here is clearly, and it's already proven, we are reducing the number, the ownership of cars in the cities up to 20 cars. That's what we can do. We see this. We are offering to our customers a much more efficient usage of the assets. And last but not least, we have as well pure electrified cities, means electric and driving cars only in the fleet. We have a huge impact on changing the driving impact. The customers had the first touch points with electric cars in 2011, for instance, in Amsterdam, and they could get used to the new way of transportation with electric cars.
Cool. Okay. Which are the cities that we were talking about? Cities in the loop. So, which are the cities that in Europe and maybe worldwide that you see that are already moving forward in this new approach towards car sharing and sustainability as a whole?
Mhm. There are of course a lot of cities moving in that direction. Amsterdam was one of the first cities moving in that direction already years ago. With we had always a great collaboration with that city. Hamburg is strongly moving as well into that direction in terms of creating a platform to connect all the different mobility forms. Means let's get multimodal. What do I have mean with multimodal is let's use the different forms of mobility, train, scooters, or as car sharing as well, and define your own way of moving forward, moving on in the city. Paris, strong mover on that point. There we have as well a pure electric city with defining a totally new setup as well here. And beside that, of course, as well in Madrid, we're very strong represented with a pure electric fleet as well. And this is as always a very good and strong collaboration with the city, but we want to improve together with the city the way of mobility.
Absolutely. So I understand that most of the biggest cities, I would say, in Europe are already covered by your offer. I would say that in order to enable the real switch towards this approach of car sharing, we also need to tackle not just the tier one cities in Europe, but also the tier two, tier three. On this side, I think from an economic point of view, it's more difficult to have like a fleet operating and of course being profitable as well on those cities. Which are your targets, for example, in Southern Europe or stuff like that, in order to assess and take also this market?
Mhm. I mean, for instance, we're operating a smaller city, let's say like this, Turin. It's performing very, very good and very strong in Italy. And it's not, as you said, one of the tier one cities. Beside that, we're always looking into new cities. We're optimizing. We optimized our setup in the last few years, especially from a technological standpoint. Means we are fully independent. Everything's 100% in-house built, so that we really can have the most efficient processes. In combination with the BI engine, means artificial intelligence we are having in our systems and the algorithms, we are in the meantime very strong and very efficient in defining how many cars are needed in a city and to provide really the minimum size or the optimum size, let's name it like this, to the city to operate very efficient and profitable. And this brings us as well into the position to tackle mid-sized cities, tier two cities, what you're mentioning. And we are right now looking pretty closely at such cities. What are possible cities we want to grow in there? One point. And with having that software platform in the background, we want to as well grow with franchise partners. Means let's go for strong partnerships where there might be somebody who wants to operate, set up a car sharing business in a mid-sized city. Then let's do it together. We're bringing the technology, we're supporting them, and create a new set up the mobility platform in a tier two city. That's the vision behind it. And I'm pretty optimistic that some announcements will happen as well this year.
Wow, very, very good, very exciting. Can't wait to have also a share now fleet in La Spezia, which is my hometown.
Good. Let's talk
Looking
afterwards
forward.
about it.
So, of course, sustainability is also about innovation, and innovation now one of the key topics. Let's say the smart trends is about AI. So, how can AI help make sustainable mobility even better?
Mhm. It's AI is one of the key success factors from my side to improve the mobility and especially the customer experience. And that's in the end what it's about. Yeah. With collecting the data, always totally GDPR compliant, with collecting the data and where the cars are, for instance, where's the probability very high that the cars will be picked up. We can define the best business area to operate and set up a city on the one side. We can steer and manage it, for instance. We have a clear visibility where the demand is very high, what are business or city areas where the demand is a bit lower. So means we can steer it very efficient, where we should make sure that the majority of the fleet is available so that customer have the cars pretty close to him by the AI engine we have in the background on the one side. And we can support this process as well with our flexible pricing model we have defined. Yeah, so to support customers in terms of if there is an area where, for instance, the probability is not so high that a customer would pick up the car, we can reduce automatically with our AI, optimize the price to incentivize the customer, means customer experience as well on one side to improve the customer experience based on a better price. And he supports us to bring the car to a different business area. And last but not least, of course, it's about cleaning, that the customer as well have a very, very good customer experience. When does a car should be cleaned? There we are as well using pretty good AI engine in the background. And last but not least, since we're talking as well about sustainable mobility, we can clearly define and manage and support together with the city where should the electric charging infrastructure set up so that a reasonable infrastructure is as well available in the city.
Very good. Thanks a lot for your answer. Looking forward a little bit more in terms of the time horizon on this, I'm really interested in understanding your point on self-driving cars. When do you foresee they will be widespread at worldwide level, and how do you think it will transform your business model?
Let me start maybe first of all, if it's okay for you, with the transformation of our business model. This will be a huge change. From my perspective, it will be clearly a game changer for the customers, for the city as well, because the most important, imagine you as a car sharing customer, today you have to walk to a car. We are trying to optimize it so that the walking distance is not so far, but nevertheless, in the future, as soon as autonomous cars are here, you don't have to walk anymore to the car. You will just simply define as a customer your pickup point. The cars will come automatically to you. When you want to end your car rental, you simply decide to stop your drive, get out at your target destination, and you do not have to look for a parking spot, saving time finally, and a huge customer experience improvement from your side. For us as a car sharing business operator, of course, a huge improvement in terms of probably we could use less cars, means once again, reduce the congestion in the city because the cars will permanently moving around. We can improve as well the processes to clean up the cars, to maintain the cars, because the car can everything, whenever it makes sense, go automatically to a workshop or to a garage, and we can fix the stuff. This is a huge change from my perspective. When we are, of course, keen on it. We worked as well in the past on different pilot projects here as well, means from a technological perspective to run and operate such a fleet. We are pretty close. We could do this, maybe not as of tomorrow, but we already have some huge learnings during those pilots. When would I see it? I would say probably 5 to 10 years. This is a period what I could see on the one side due to technological requirements on the car side, but as well simply legal requirements. You have so many stuff to discuss and agree on the legal side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I think on this side, I mean, technologically speaking, I think we're really close to this kind of solution. Maybe in terms of regulation, we will be a little bit later than, for example, some states of the US or China, which is a little bit ahead in terms of regulation on that side. So absolutely,
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a whole, how do you see the future of mobility and car sharing look like?
As a whole, from the vision, what I would see, as I said, we from Share Now side want to improve the life of the citizens in the city. That's the clear approach. And all the different mobility forms will grow closer and come closer together from our perspective. Means, I titled it just a few minutes ago, multimodal, means all the different mobility platforms will probably merge together in one bigger software platform. That's why the Now Group, for instance, was as well founded with our sister companies as well, where we can look for a pretty close collaboration. It means you as a customer will open one app to give you a clear full visibility. You will choose whatever fits the best to your use, to your route. Means let's jump on a car, drive to a specific point, then you smoothly will change from a car to the public transportation system, might be a bus or a train, or finally to go for the last mile, maybe even a scooter. And everything will be available and connected between the different mobility providers, and everything will be available on one software platform.
Okay, very cool. There are some questions that are popping out.
Cool.
There's Sarah, which is asking, I love car sharing, but I have a big family. It's not easy to manage groceries or move them with a share car. Do you have a solution for this?
Not as of today. I mean, we have bigger cars, and this is really a very, very good question. I mean, we're looking as well into such models. Sarah, means what you, Filippo, asked me at the beginning. Do you see opportunities to integrate maybe trucks or whatever on your platform? And these are, of course, ideas we're having as well in our mind. Maybe go for vans or bigger cars with the, let's say, not the biggest fleet maybe, but as well to offer such needs and cover them as well in the city. That's a clear way what we can do to connect such cars or new different mobility platforms and bring them to our platform. That's a pretty easy step. Yeah.
Okay. So other question is from Pietro. Thank you very much. Great project. If I too wanted to create a company like yours in a different market, where should I start?
Where should you start? Let's start together. We're always happy. Maybe it's a nice idea to work together. As I said some minutes ago, we're working on we have a pretty mature technology platform. It's quite complex solution. We have 100 software engineers in our hand working permanently on that software platform. To give you an idea, we're talking here about really a modern software architecture comprising 250 microservices and probably even a few more. Yeah, there's fleet management, there's customer data, IDs, etc., which need to be verified, and last but not least, of course, to cover the payment process. So it means it's really complex. But we want to share and support, work together with companies and give them access to the platform. Means if you want to start such a company, let's start maybe conversations between the two of us separately, look and figure out what kind of business you want to start, and let's talk as well about using our software technology as a franchise concept might be an idea, or simply get your own brand started or define it, and we can as well look how we could maybe define a suitable solution for you as well.
Great. I think this is very useful for also the target audience that is connected right now. And also still on this topic, let's say, did you have any merger and acquisition in the last years? Which are the companies that you're targeting maybe in this period in order to enlarge your, you were describing a little bit more the business model in detail. So which are some verticals that are really interested in at Share Now?
In the last 2 years, we on ShareNow side didn't have an M&A activity. I mean, we were founded, so keep in mind, ShareNow itself is a pretty young company. We have been merged together, created out of DriveNow and Cardigo. So it's from a company perspective and technology perspective, we're really to bring everything together on one platform. We did it in a very good way, and that's where we wanted as well to join the forces. Means right now we're operating in 16 cities. Yeah. But as you said, we are always open. Are there some different mobility players? Yeah, might be for the last mile concept, might be as well software solutions which we could integrate into our platform to easy, or might be as well alternative transportation solution, which was asked, for instance, by yourself about trucks or maybe vans. Yeah, whatever is here on the street, we are open for this. Yeah. And if it's interesting and suits to our strategy, then we will do the move.
Great. Another question, which is pretty unexpected, is for me. Does Mr. Lebrun own a car? I do. Actually, it's not my choice. We were talking about this with Slavko some minutes ago. Actually, in cities like mine, there are not many options where the public transportation is not very well developed. If you need to work and go to places which are not very well connected, of course, there are not many options other than owning a car. But I would be very happy to get rid of it, because I know it's highly inefficient, both from an economic and, of course, also from an ecological point of view. So we're looking forward for Share Now in our city.
Cool. Let's talk afterwards about it, Filippo. Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely. The questions are on this side are over. I just wanted to know a little bit more about the team at Share Now. If you can share something about how many people are employed now at Share Now, which are if you have many, for example, some open positions that someone might apply to if they're interested in joining your team.
Mhm. Yes, of course. Happy to share here some insights. We are around 470, 460 mobility enthusiasts. Everybody is really keen on changing the way of living in the cities and make sure that we're influencing here and moving the mobility into the right direction. So means keep in mind roughly around 460, 470 employees. The tech department, which I'm heading, is one of the biggest teams. We're talking here about 150 team members. That's one point. Around 100, 110 software engineers, product managers, UX engineers. But beside that, of course, marketing is there on board. Finance is needed to ever make everything is running smoothly. Business developers we're having in our team as well. Strong, great team members who are pushing forward, looking always into new cities or new business models, which might be very interesting for us. New positions? Yes, of course. There are open positions on tech side, on product side, business development side, or on marketing side. And what I'm really very proud of is about offering the flexible working solutions. We are, for instance, from a product perspective, I just started with my team together 1 or 2 months ago. We opened up, let's say, the first hub in Spain where we want to start and hire as well team members. And beside that, we have always the flexibility to hire team members in the markets and regions we are operating, like Madrid, Italy. There are always interesting positions. And happy if you have something or somebody's interested afterwards, reach out to me.
Very good, very good. I think it's very, very interesting also for the people that are connected, of course, to join such a young company, which is so ambitious in terms of developing its own dream and its own plan in in giving the people the new possibility of moving in a different way, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I thank you very much, Slavko, for your time. I think it was very useful and very insightful for the people here. And thanks a lot to Campus Party team for organizing this great event. So look forward to seeing the next moves of Share Now. And of course, I think Slavko is open to receive any kind of inquiries on LinkedIn, where people can join you.
Exactly, on LinkedIn. Happy, just reach out to me, we'll connect. And thank you as well for having me here, to the team, to the Filippo. It was a pleasure to talk to you and to be part here of the Campus Party event. So cool.
Same here. Thanks a lot, Slavko, and thanks a lot to the people that listen to this conversation.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. This happens, very rookie mistake. We are having a very interesting conversation, a very interesting panel on digital transformation, decentralized cities, governments, technology, and a sustainable future in this virtual version of the Campus Party 2022. My name is Sergio Mastrogiovanni, and I'll be moderating this panel and interesting conversation on decentralized government and smart cities. And we have here two of the most respective authorities in the field. I'm going to introduce them starting in alphabetical order with Diego Fernandez. Diego is the Secretary of Innovation and Digital Transformation in the Buenos Aires city government. He is passionate about technology, transformations, and great challenges. He has a wealth of experience in the private and public sector and has worked in Buenos Aires city government since 2010, working on education, urban planning, and now he's leading the Secretary of Innovation and Digital Transformation. Welcome, Diego. And then we have Stefan Schunstrand. Stefan holds a PhD in architecture, and he's an expert in smart cities, intelligent buildings, sustainability, and blockchain. He is also the CEO and co-founder of Grupo Tecma Red, Spain's leading editorial company about sustainability, energy, and new technologies for the built environment. And he is also a strategic advisor for the public administration and private companies and teaches at several universities. Welcome, Stefan. Thank you both for being here. I'm delighted to have this very interesting conversation on the topic. And I would like to start with a question for you both, whoever wants to pick it first, that is about what we learned in the last 2 years, right? How can we tie sustainability and the lessons learned from COVID-19, tying technology, sustainability, and governance, right? Who wants to share a reflection on it?
I can start.
Stefan, please.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, answering that question, I think that the biggest and most important lesson from the pandemic has been that people working from their homes instead of going to their offices actually works very well for most organizations. And I believe that this is the most important lesson because to implement telework on a broad scale is the fastest single action we can take to reach the sustainability development goals. And just some examples why teleworks help to reach the SDGs. On one hand, it reduces traffic, which causes 40% of the carbon emissions in our cities. It permits to conciliate work and family life since it saves more than an hour a day in transportation for most people, and that people can still work even though they must be home, for example, with a sick child. And on the other hand, it repopulates, if we are strategic, rural areas, as people can live there and work wherever they want. And also it strengthens the local communities as people spend more time in and around their homes. But sadly, maybe what we have seen now is that most companies and even the public administrations are going back full time to the offices instead of, for example, implementing models for flexible work where you can work from home at least 3-4 days a week or 5 for those who wants to and live in rural areas. You can invest more in high-speed telecommunications, especially in those rural areas that need that. And we also need to implement even better digital tools for remote collaboration, where we really can be creative and collaborate on better ways than tools like Teams, etc., can permit us to do. And we also have to improve the logistics for e-commerce that is growing with the telework, and to incentivize telework economically instead of going to the office. So I think that the biggest lesson we have learned from the COVID is that we have seen that teleworks very well, but unfortunately we have not yet been able to take the full advantage of it. But I really hope that in a soon future we will be able to do that on a broader scale.
Yeah, it's necessary draw digital adoption. About that, Diego, what can you tell me about the role of the government in this new digital world? And what is Buenos Aires City doing about this? I know that you guys implemented a lot of tools and chatbots probably to drive or improve the communication with the citizen.
Well, I mean, this last 2 years since pandemic struck us in March 2020, we were forced as a government to change with this new reality and being unable to communicate directly with citizens, which was a usual physical way that we all did things in our personal and professional lives, posed quite a challenge. Over that, when we started with these massive testing models and after that massive vaccination models, we were forced to come up with a way of getting in touch with citizens easily, faster. We didn't have time nor resources to start developing new platforms. So I think that we took a very bold idea and we mounted, or actually we already had it in place, but we made a great deal of development on top of a chatbot in WhatsApp. The chatbot is named Boti, and actually it became quite a rock star because I mean all the population started chatting with the chatbot, requesting appointments for testing and inquiring about the vaccination status of each member of the family. Uh, we we came from 500,000 conversations per month pre-pandemic to 8 million conversations per month last month because of this new
Wow, that's
Omicron.
huge.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And actually, this was a beautiful discovery because we started migrating most of our interactions with the citizens to the chatbot. And why is that? Because it's much more effective. It's in natural language. We're incorporating voice and eventually video this year. People don't need to go to an application or to a website. They just use the same chat tool that they use every day to speak with their family and friends, and they can get in touch with the government, request information, ask for appointments, services, and whatever. And that was for us, honestly, a pretty successful way of getting out of that particular issue within the pandemic.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Stefan, you wrote many articles and you probably are an expert in what is blockchain and emerging technologies. So, what are the probably the technologies that are transforming cities, and how can we tie this with the UN sustainable, with the famous SDGs, UN Sustainable Development Goals? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Well, without doubt, I think the biggest challenge for our cities and us as citizens is to reach those sustainable development goals in the year 2030, which is established by the United Nations. And to achieve that, we will need to radically change many aspects of our lives, including the way we work, the way we learn, travel, consume, entertain ourselves, etc. The good news is that it is doable, but to do this in a holistic way, which means that we can advance from the social, economic, and environment perspective at the same time, we need to apply a broad use of new technologies such as 5G, IoT, artificial intelligence, etc. Because these technologies will enable the necessary transformation of solutions and services to reach the sustainable development goals. For example, we need 5G to be able to manage self-driving cars or vehicles in general within the cities, because only 5G can provide the necessary fast communication for that. And we need, for example, artificial intelligence to take the best decisions of where to spend the public investments in many areas, like in the health sector or environmental or social welfare, etc. We need that help. And we need IoT to monitor our environment to assure the quality of air and water, etc. And it's obvious, I think it's obvious and very positive that all these new services that will grow around the implementation of new technologies, not only the ones that I mentioned, but many others, are huge opportunities for innovation and work during actually a long future. So I would say it's that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know that you both are at least made yourselves kind of expert on what is blockchain, decentralized operation. So about that, what you guys think, or you Diego think that is the lowest hanging fruit, or what is the something that we can expect to see in the upcoming years or 2 years implemented, and what is the biggest impact that we can see, for example, with blockchain in a decentralized operation?
Uh, I will put this in three different aspects. I think that one of the lowest hanging fruits, I heard Stefan mention it in one of his talks. It will probably be putting monitors for climate, weather, and CO2 emissions all over the city, and everyone will be sure that those recordings are verified and are immutable, and everybody will have access to that information. That would be pretty cool, and it will probably have a big impact because society will start to be more conscious about what they are doing and how they are living in their particular communities. I would then say that in my humble opinion, the first step that we should take is starting to give citizens identities based on blockchain. That may seem kind of controversial because, hey, you guys are government, you give out central identities. Why do you need a decentralized network? And the world that I envision, at least for in the upcoming future, is a world in which centralization and decentralization both combine their efforts. And of course, we issue identities, but there are a lot of layers in the identity where decentralization takes a big role. For example, verified credentials. We give credentials as a government, but private institutions need to give credentials, and those credentials need to be immutable. And there's a third layer, which for me is crucial, which is the reputational identity. Today, we're used to assuming that the reputation that we hold with merchants, with vendors, with banks, belong to the merchants, to the vendors, to the banks. And let me tell you, that's not true. Those reputations belong to us, and we need to be able of managing that reputation. And I think that this first step, I mean, that I mentioned is crucial, giving citizens digital identities based on blockchain. And the third and more crucial part of it, and the most complex part, having that we have digital identities, is for sure getting rid of part of the bureaucracy. And why I say this? Because blockchain is the digital automatic bureaucracy. Blockchain does by code what we today do by hand. That will take time. It will happen tomorrow, sorry. But definitely that's the way society is moving with this new technology, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and that also brings a very interesting conversation about who owns the data, right? That is something that we are talking. We have 5 companies that owns our data, our lives, and so on. So, in line with that, probably we are having a very interesting approach to the virtual life, right? I would be very interested in understanding, or at least having your thoughts, especially Stefan, about what is metaverse, right? In the last month, this something that came, and we are having this buzz or hype around this. I would love to have your thoughts, Stefan, about what is the metaverse and how can we relate this to what we call intelligent smart cities.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting area for smart cities, and metaverse is opening up now. And it's actually the concept. It refers to a digital world, parallel and interconnected to our physical world. And in the metaverse, we can socialize with other people, entertain ourselves, but we can also work professionally, for example. And the metaverse, in difference from other virtual worlds in general, or gaming and so on, it has a crypto economy within it that permits us to merge the physical and digital world, and also make business, etc., in a transparent and open way, which can flow between the physical and digital worlds. So, and from a spatial perspective, the metaverse can be applied in two ways, in two environments. One is a pure virtual world, which can be experienced through, for example, virtual reality headsets. And there exists, those worlds exist as like sandbox and etc. And you can build there. So, but on the other hand, we can experience the metaverse in what's called a mixed reality through, for example, glasses that permits us to see both the physical world, but with a layer above of a digital world. That's called mixed reality or augmented reality. There are different worlds. And from a smart city perspective, I think this mixed reality is the most interesting, as it will occur within our cities, also within the public spaces. So there are so many ways to apply this within a city, but people using these glasses that will be that exists and will be even very, very common within the next years, they can see a lot more information than just a visual one, because they can see layers above. For example, what we saw a couple of years ago with the Pokemons, that only with the glasses you could see those Pokemons on the street. But you can imagine yourself walking up a street where you can see different kind of facades. So the facade, for example, can be substituted. A Zara store, for example, they want to make something commercials outside that store, or help people moving outside that store, showing a virtual clothes on the sidewalk. We can do a lot of cultural activities. That means that we can, for example, in a park, we can have people playing, you can have animals, you can, in virtual animals, you can also apply this for, apart from entertainment, for business, and in so many different ways. But I think also the cities have to provide services and think about how these will be used in the metaverse and not only in the physical world. Because there's a lot of information that has to be provided to the citizens, and a lot of citizens that will spend a lot of time within the metaverse. So, and also I think it's important that the cities, when they plan and they think of their cities, they should be aware that it's not only a physical space, but also a digital space. For example, you have to regulate this space and put some limits on how it could be used, because for example, if we imagine a concert, somebody is in the metaverse putting up a concert on a big square, and it comes 100,000 people to listen to this famous artist, which they can only see with their glasses on, but they can see and experience that concert. That will be is a disruptive thing. It will stop the traffic. It will be so many problems with the public transportation and so on, because you have to be there to see this. So we have to think about how to approach the metaverse from a city regulation perspective. We have to actively participate, because that's the only way we can learn about the metaverse, how it's being applied, etc. So it offers huge opportunities, and there's an urgent need for people from a wide range of professionals capable to develop and manage these solutions. And there will be a need for not only for designers, but anthropologists, sociologists, lawyers, economists, social media people, and so on. So I think the people like listening to this talk should definitely explore the possibilities that the metaverses, different metaverses offers today. And there are metaverses that belongs to companies like enterprises, like Facebook, Microsoft, etc. But there are also a lot of other metaverses on the blockchain that permits a participation and creativities from absolutely anybody who wants to be there and participate actively.
Yeah, that's very interesting and promising. Stefan brings very interesting point, Diego. What do you think that is the role of the government or the state? First, regulating, and there are many open conversations, not just in Buenos Aires and Argentina, but also in the whole world about taxing crypto, for example, or taxing this operation or decentralized operation. What are your thoughts on this? What is the role of the government, or what should be a role? This is actually a moving target, right? This is something that is still being discussed. And we are having many open conversations.
Well, first, I want to make our international audience a little explanation about this thing that I have in my hand, which is called mate, which is a very South American costume. I mean, we drink mate half day long, so this may sound strange, but it's very popular here in my country. Having said this, to be honest, I don't think I have a direct answer for that. I just would like to share my thoughts. I honestly think that internet plus blockchain, and I put those two together because in the future, I don't know, 200 years from now, I guess that internet and blockchain will be seen as the same occurrence in time. I mean, these 20 years that separates one from the other will be seen just as a process of transformation. I think that we as a race have experienced two major, let's say, tidal changes event, which is the printing press and internet plus blockchain. Printing press transformed the state or the institutions and the governments in the 1500s. Catholic Church had a complete control over information. They decided who was able of reading, who was able of writing and sharing information. And the printing press completely destroyed that and made information available to anyone. In today's model, which was created after the appearance of the printing press and the appearance of nation states, in today's model, which is the model created in 1643 in Westphalia, states rule over every social transaction in the citizenship. They give you a birth certificate, they give you an ID, we give you a driver's license, we validate every transaction that you make when you sell a car, when you buy a house, when you get married, when you get divorced, when you die. State is omnipresent in everything that you need to be able of certifying against others. And what blockchains bring is a new way of doing that. So the role of government will necessarily have to change. In many of the things that we governments do today, we are kind of a telephone company from the 80s, switching cables from one plug to the other, and WhatsApp and Telegram have just appeared. So how much time will take the society to adopt WhatsApp and Telegram? The role that we as governments will take is something that needs to be discussed. The first reaction is, hey, let's regulate this. But it's something quite very difficult to regulate, because the only point that you have to regulate that is when you put your money within a formal bank. Okay, but eventually you won't do it. So I don't have a clear perspective on how we should treat this. My first approach would be, hey, don't mess with success. This is working. Don't start regulating it. I'm not sure that we can have a point saying, hey, regulate this, regulate that. I think that we need to start involving ourselves, doing what we need to do, which is simplifying the way that we interact with citizens using this new technology, this new blockchain technology, and see how things start to evolve. I think that government regulations have not done a very good deal to development in general.
Yeah, and I personally think that this is actually just the opposite, right? And sometimes this technology help probably people trust in governments, right? Actually, it's all about trust. Blockchain is a decentralized network and works with trust, right? So, Stefan, you wrote an entire chapter, a book about blockchain and smart cities, right? So I would love to have your thoughts about how this works in the public sector and the private sector, and what is the trade-off, and probably how will citizens relate to this, right?
Yeah. Well, as Diego said, blockchain can be applied in so many different ways, and he gave really good examples. I think blockchain for a smart city can really be applied in a broad range. One starting point is where Diego started now with the government, all the kind of public services that apart from him what he mentioned, for example, what the qualities of blockchain actually, that it's transparent, that it's cyber secure, and that it's immutable. And those are qualities that so many governments on all levels lack, because there is corruption, etc. So applying blockchain per se is to taking a step towards transparency and immutability. And we can see that in many kind of applications within the services that the governments provide. But even in, for example, in blockchain can be applied also for voting and for elections and so on. So we can, but it's really difficult to change politics, because there's so many interests, and I think everybody could see the advantages of digital voting and with your mobile phone, etc. But for example, in the latest elections in the European Union, only one country permitted elections with a mobile phone, and in certain circumstances. So it's pathetic. But I also think that blockchain can be applied in so many different kind of areas, like for the mobility, the traceability in the transportation. What Diego said about the transparency and in the data provided by the cities, the measurements, for example, about air qualities, water qualities, and so on, and to make those immutable and transparent. It's very useful for the data and the information towards the citizens. But we can use blockchain for really huge areas and applications. So I think it's a really interesting technology. And of course, there are critics about the consumption of energy and so on, but there are only some kinds of blockchain solutions that actually consume that huge number of huge quantities of energy, and this ongoing technologies towards other solutions that consume far less. And I think that's something that will get solved very, very soon. So that's sort of an overview of smart city applications. But if you want, we can pick up on discussing also the web thing that Diego mentioned. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I would love to. Actually, I would like to have your thoughts on. We've been discussing the pros of having these many technologies, mainly blockchain, supporting or enabling in smart cities. But what are your thoughts on the cons? Are the challenges that you both see with these technologies in implemented in cities? Is digital, is education, is adoption? What do you guys think that are the challenges that we have?
Uh, to be honest, I think that the challenge is systemic. Uh, we are sort of in a kind of perfect storm. Storm in the meaning, I think what is happening is amazing. It's wonderful. It's very positive, but it's very difficult because there are lots of things changing in a radical way at the same time. We have what Stefan mentioned at the beginning of this panel regarding telework. We have people moving to the rural areas and perhaps leaving part of the cities. We're suffering that in Buenos Aires. The downtown of Buenos Aires is pretty empty today, and we're starting to promote public policies in order to bring society back to living instead of working, but to live in downtown. So telework, cities changing their forms, demand for cities also mutating, and the role of government starting to be in question, and the governance model that we are in, which is mainly democracy, also suffering from society needing and wanting something different. Let me do a small point on this. We are used to vote several times a day. So each time that we are on social network, whichever social network, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever system, we always vote. We say like, don't like, don't like. But when we refer to governments, to what is happening in our community, in our city, we are only able of voting once every 2 years. And that will need to change. I mean, the governance of cities, the governance of countries will forcefully need to change. Why? Because society today is used to acting differently and will demand a change in how it decides their future. And I think that, I mean, the future will be great. For me, the main challenge, the main menace that we face is, hey, these changes need to occur in a timely fashion, in a proper fashion, and we have the risk of seeing these changes in a critical and very, very chaotic way. And that is something that we need to avoid as a government, as a society, as a race.
Yeah, really, I'm sorry. If I can
Yeah,
jump on
go,
that.
go ahead, Stefan.
I really agree with Diego. It's a perfect storm. There's so many things going on, and there are huge challenges from a governmental perspective because first, I think Buenos Aires is one of the few cities in the world that actually have people like Diego that know about blockchain, that understand it in a deeper level, and can have a strategic view how to apply it, the pros and cons, and so on. So there's a huge lack of knowledge within the government on all levels about blockchain, artificial intelligence, crypto. It's like that's a huge problem, actually. So the cons with this is that it will be tried to be controlled by people that actually don't know what it is. So that's the biggest con. Technology itself, I wouldn't say there are actually any cons with the technology, because technology depends on how we apply it. But I think it's a super interesting moment now, because such as Diego said, it's for the public administration, there's coming so many news way with decision-making possibilities and so on, interaction with the citizens. But this is even if we look at the web itself, internet itself. Internet, as Diego said, has come to a communication level, but the next level, but this current level is dominated by the establishment, by the big governments, the organizations, the big companies, etc. Those are putting up the rules how we can interact with those systems. So it doesn't really belong to the user. It belongs to these platforms. Airbnb, Booking, all this kind of Amazon and so on. If you want to participate, you have to participate within those rules they put up, and they can change it from one day to another. And YouTube changed the way you can earn money on YouTube from one day to another, and suddenly hundreds of thousands of people won't get the micropayments because they don't reach a specific level. So that the situation now with the web, that's called Web 2, and now what is coming is Web 3. Web 3 is a web where not the big corporations are dominating the services that are provided, but they are built upon crypto economics, and our organizations called DAOs, distributed autonomous organizations, that are actually owned and controlled through the crypto and the tokens by the users. That, for example, if you have a a web where you can book hotels or travel, etc., or transportation, the ones that provide the value to that network are the people that own the hotels or drive the cars, etc. So as long as they participate, they can decide how it will work, developments, etc. And there are different kind of different ways to organize it. But as long as this system works and people participate, it will earn money and function, and people will be happy and provide services and develop. But if somebody tries to control it, they will probably, and when the decisions aren't good enough for the users, the professionals that participate, but also the end users. So it's a huge system. So they will retire, and the value of that service will go down or disappear because nobody will use it. So the Web 3.0 or Web 3 also provides the creators economy where people can, for example, artists can sell their NFTs directly. They can be the owner of the music. We don't need those big music corporations anymore, or art galleries or representatives, because and it's actually shown that there are thousands of artists, like graphical artists, that sell art, digital art, and can make a living of it, a good living, and which they could not do 2-3 years ago. But selling their art as NFTs, they get a connection with the buyers that like their art. They discuss their art. So this community is growing up, and they're the artists that own the art and make the money from the art. And I think it's very interesting for everybody should actually keep an eye on this and try to understand it, because the participants in the new web you can even make money playing games, but you can be a social moderator, or you can work professionally. But the Web 3 is also a revolution that will, I think, change a lot of what we have seen today and the economy that we are seeing today. That's absolutely important to keep attending and participating in.
Yeah, that's amazing and very, very disruptive. I would love to leave some time for questions, and if we have time, I come back with you. I would love to have your final thoughts on this. Would be great having the questions. We have a lot of questions from the audience. I don't know if I will read them, or if we can probably put okay, there we have the first one. Is the city really necessary? After all, our relationships are very often limited to a few dozen people, and we visit places outside the city more often than areas of our own city. Very interesting question / comment. You guys have thoughts on this? Are the cities really necessary? A very philosophical question, but deep though.
Well, I think that Stefan is the expert being your urban planner, but I mean, in my humble opinion, cities will definitely always be necessary. We people love to live together. We love to share. We love to be in places with other people. We love to attend to events. And I think that cities will always be a place, and will be the place where humankind will live.
I think the question is absolutely brilliant, and I don't have a brilliant answer, but the reflection is that I agree to some point that we need places to unite socially, physically, and where we can experience things together, etc. So I think the city itself, maybe not the way it looks like today, but those kind of places are necessary for our well-being, because we like to feel or touch each other, etc. So maybe I think really though that the scale of cities around the world has gone, it's crazy. It's I read yesterday that I don't remember the number, but there will be so many thousands of cities with more than 1 million people, and I think in the cities with 1 million people, we lose so much of the small scale part, and we generate so many problems. There's problems of traffic, there's a problem with energy consumption, there's a problem with within so many areas, and we lose so much time in moving around. So, and the value itself, I really think I would love to see a development towards a lot more smaller cities. Really, we have to take care of existing cities around the world. In rural areas, we have to provide it with high-speed telecommunication. We have to make it, because the cities grow, because especially in developing countries, because that's the only way, a place where people can make their living. So many people don't leave their villages and go to the cities because they want to, really. They're not only looking for their economic benefits. So I think making possibilities to live in smaller cities and different scales, depending on where in the world, but really, that's the biggest challenge for the coming next 10, 20, 30 years. Absolutely. So it's a brilliant question. And I don't think it's the big cities we have, big cities we have today, they're not necessary. They grow from the industrialization and that business model that's not valid anymore. So we have to rethink, and also thinking from an circular economical perspective, we have to think of the way we use and consume and everything. And in a smaller city, I think that's a lot easier.
Yeah, and actually we are seeing a lot of disruption, right, in the urban planning. We are seeing entire buildings empty for different reasons. COVID, people are working from home, and you name it, right? So let's see if we have another question. Does the metaverse have any negative consequences in our life, social life? Stefan, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I start this time, and then Diego had to give his comments. I mean, I don't have an answer to this question either, but some thoughts. Okay, I think the metaverse is really providing ways to meet and work and create things together in a way that, for example, Teams and Zoom meetings don't. And I think it provides a social value above what we can currently experience through a video conference call, for example. So I think in that sense, it's positive. I mean, our company, we telework since 1.5 years ago. We had an office, but we don't have an office anymore. And actually, we meet like this, but I think to meeting once a week or being together in a virtual office, the metaverse, that would be a good social part, not to substitute the times that we meet physically to do other things. But I think, of course, you can abuse it. Being in a virtual world with your glasses 24 hours a day, I don't think too many people will do that. Although I think that people could wear their glasses where they can have augmented reality and mixed reality. It's something that you can actually do all the time, or you wake in day. So negative parts, we have to think about that. But of course, there are some parts for people that get isolated and only participate in the social world. But I think it's an additional level that provides more social life, but it's not a substitute for all physical social life.
Can you imagine walking Buenos Aires in the metaverse?
Yeah, I would love to do that. Actually, I mean, I'm not authorized to reveal anything, but I mean, we're starting to speak with some metaverse companies, because we in Buenos Aires have a lot of really nice cultural places, and such as the, I don't know, Museum of Modern Art and the Cologne Theater, which is one of the best opera houses in the world. And we would love to show those places in the metaverse. Regarding of the negative consequences, honestly, it's just a personal reflection here, but I am 50 years old, so I was born in a world without color television, of course, without internet, and when phone and telephone calls were pretty expensive and not everywhere. So when I was 12 years old, my big brother gave me my first computer as a gift. Of course, it was not even an Intel computer, it was a Spectrum computer, a very, very old and primitive, one of the first personal computers. You need to record your information in a cassette. And I spent hours at night programming with that stuff, and I loved it. And my mother always said, "Hey, what are you doing all day looking at that screen? Your brains are gonna get fried. Go out, do something." Today, I see my wife speaking to my children. I have 3 daughters. What are you doing all day long with that telephone? Doing Instagram, get in touch with your friends. A small thing that happened here. The other day, I went to wake my girl up for going to school, 8 a.m. in the morning, and I see an iPad side on the bed with another girl sleeping there. So I just turned the iPad off. When my girl says, "Hey, Daddy, what happened with my friend?" I say, "Hey, Lola, you were sleeping on a video call." "Yeah, of course, we were sleeping together." So, I mean, I don't think that social life with all these advantages has gotten worse. On the contrary, I think that it has gotten changed. And we, from the perspective of our experience and see most times, I mean, we see these changes perhaps as negative. But I would like to put a question mark there. Of course, every change has the potential of becoming negative. But on all the advantages and technological improvements as we have in the last 30 years, this hasn't happened. So I would like to I would like to have faith and a good vision in the future. I think it will be better, not worse.
Yeah, the trade-off is always positive, right? Technology always helps, even though it left people behind. Is the trade-off is positive? Do we have any final question? How could the circular economy help small cities like mine that have less than 4,000 inhabitants? What are your thoughts? Probably, Stefan, you work with sustainability and smart cities, and probably can share a reflection on this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think circular economy, the idea of circular economy is that we should, whatever we put in to the loop, we should not get out of the loop, like waste or wastewater or clothes for landfills, etc., or construction material. The idea in a circular economy is that we recircle everything, both energy and physical materials and so on. So I think it's with 4,000 inhabitants, I think it's a volume enough to share. For example, if you have to demolish a building, you can recycle the building materials. I don't think it's really a question of limit of size and so on. So, and especially if 4,000 inhabitants, it should probably have rural areas around it to grow vegetables and be autosufficient in many things, which are very good for economy, for a circular economy, because we don't have to transport in material, and we don't have to we can wastes, for example, we can burn them to get heat, and so there's a lot of benefits. I think at any level of a city, and even individual level, if we live alone in a on the countryside, we can adapt the circular economy in so many different ways of our lives.
Okay, so we are on time. Diego, Stefan, thank you very much for your time. This was an amazing, and you're probably the authorities to talk about this. And I invite everyone to keep watching online this campus party. We have amazing speakers, and it's going to be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you so much, Sergio, and all of the viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So good morning. Happy to be at Campus Party. I'm going to talk about EcoAlf, which probably some of you don't know, but it's a Spanish sustainable fashion brand. But before that, I would like to talk briefly about the problem about the waste in the world. I think we are sometimes not aware of what's going on, but the waste problem is much higher than we can imagine. And this is a problem which is getting bigger and bigger. This is not something which is disappearing. At the end of the day, we are going to be 2 more billion people by 2050. We're going to be we're 150,000 more people in the world every day. So this problem is getting worse than worse. There's over 500,000 million plastic bags which are used every year. The problem with those bags is normally they have a span life of less than 30 minutes from the store to your house. More than 650,000 tons of discarded fishing nets in the bottom of the oceans. People are not aware, but this is a huge problem because unfortunately, a lot of these nets are made of nylon 6, which is a top quality material. So that means that those nets can be there for centuries, creating a lot of marine problems. The more you will see that EcoAlf is very much focused on the ocean, and the more we investigate, we do actions, we feel that the ocean is much more dirty than we can imagine. Unfortunately, 75% of the trash is in the bottom of the ocean. We feel the ocean is clean, but it's not. When a bottle has a cup, it goes down, full of water goes down, an aluminum can goes down. So most of the trash is unfortunately on the seabed. I always put this because this was I remember on a trip to India to visit some natural dye factories, and I was going from Bangalore to this natural dye factories, and it was a 4-hour trip, and unfortunately I was surrounded by crystal bottles, plastic bottles, aluminum cans, all kind of dirt. And what we don't realize is that probably my grandson will see this if he takes the same trip in a few centuries in the future. This is not going to disappear, and this is getting worse and worse. And this, I always put it because I remember we received this phone call from a lawyer of the plastic industry a few years ago, and said, Javier, you speak bad about plastic. I said, no, I don't speak bad about plastic. In fact, I think plastic is an incredible material to do many things. If you're going to do a window which has to last for 300 years, then it's fantastic to use PVC. Or for many medical appliances, I mean, it has tons of usage, which are incredible. The problem is that we're taking the natural cover of the fruit and putting it in plastic containers. That's what I think it's a misusage of the plastic, which we don't need. And unfortunately, it's millions of containers every day, which unfortunately finish, many of them, in the ocean. So a lot of people claim this is much tougher than this, more than 200,000 million plastic bags, which are not collected. Probably a lot of you have heard about the wires in the ocean. First, it was 1 in the Pacific, then it was 3, then it was 5, then it was 7. I had the chance to see one in the Gulf of Thailand 2 years ago, which was not very big. It was 5 miles by 7. The fishermen said that they come and disappears. Suddenly they see them for 2 weeks and they disappear for months. So they move with the currents. This was a quite strange thing because the plastic was, it was not only plastic, it was waste. It felt like a carpet. It felt like you could walk on top, But normally, unfortunately, most of the plastic is converted into microplastic. And unfortunately, what's happening? That the fish are eating that plastic. And the last study we had access already 3 years ago, 1/3 of all the fish in the ocean had already plastic inside. So this is probably now even worse. Ellen MacArthur Foundation says that by 2050 there will probably be more plastic than fish in the ocean. I believe there's already much more plastic than fish in the ocean. It depends what you call plastic. If you call plastic a plastic bottle, probably not. But if you call it little tiny pieces, then I'm sure there's much more than fish in the ocean. And there's no fortune, no technology, no money enough in the world to take all that microplastic outside of the ocean. So this is a huge problem. How is that waste? Because this is not only plastic. How is that waste getting into the ocean? Well, unfortunately, a lot through the rivers. Only in Southeast Asia, there's 10 rivers from Philippines, India, China, Thailand, which are very long. They go all along the country and they pass through many villages. Unfortunately, all these villages a lot of containers, but we haven't given them the lorry to collect those containers. So for them, the lorry is the river. And these rivers are pouring tons of waste into the ocean every minute. But you don't only have to go to Southeast Asia. You can go here to the Mediterranean. No? Here you have it at Sidon, no? 48 kilometers from Beirut, a place where they've been bombing for the last decades. And they've been putting all this waste near the ocean. Every time the wind blows, this goes directly into the Mediterranean. Or you have it in front of the coast of Messina in Italy, no? Probably one of the biggest wastelands and in the world. No, for decades, the people who were supposed to be in charge of the waste, instead of getting properly in charge, they've been thrown into the ocean. So you can find refrigerators, you can find bikes, you can find boats, you can find anything you want. No? And this is also the Mediterranean. Or unfortunately, this is Hawaii, which is in some areas of Hawaii, unfortunately, happening twice every month. Before they said it was happening once or twice every year. Or you have it in the Atlantic, where somebody decided it was a great place to throw used tires. This is 7 kilometers long. So, I mean, we could continue with tons of examples. As I said, this is not getting better. This is probably getting worse. But for you guys to have an idea, we're going to be 30 minutes here talking. There will be 30 new trucks of 16 tons, which will have dumped their waste in the ocean. So to talk about Equal, well, Equal was born in 2009. The name is under my sons, Alfred and Albert. That's why Alf. I wanted to create a truly sustainable fashion company, and so recycling could be a solution if we're able to make like this new generation of recycled products with the same quality and design as the best non-recycled. The problem is that when I went to the market in 2010, there were no cool recycled fabrics, and fabrics were only recycled in a very small percentage. So I had to start developing those fabrics. I started with an amazing woman south of Taichung, which was recycling plastic bottles to create carpets, and she had a lot of sensibility. Finally, we launched the company in 2013, and since then we have developed more than 450 different recycled fabrics. A lot of you probably know, no? Fashion is probably one of the most polluted industries in the world. It depends how you measure it in terms of uses of water or carbon emissions. It can be the second, the third, etc. Why is that so? Because unfortunately, it's based on a business model which is not working. At the end of the day, it's been controlled by the fast fashion for many decades now, which is all about buying, throwing, a new trend every Thursday, discount promotion, Black Friday. This is creating huge amount of billions of garments going to landfill every year. So we always say at Equal, no, fashion cannot just be about looking good. It also has to do about doing what is right and feeling good about it. And it's possible. Okay. So I think what you do is not enough anymore. I think how you do it is more and more important. I mean, anybody can make a building, no? But how is that building in terms of energy efficiency? Or anybody can make a t-shirt, no? Well, but what is the footprint of that t-shirt in the world? So I think we have to start asking those questions. And while we say this, no, I think the situation is starting to get very, very worrying. Look, the other day, no, I was reading, no, the biggest cotton company in the world burning 4,000 acres of forest in Ethiopia to plant cotton. So we're burning the forest to plant cotton to make t-shirts of €5, which are going to finish in landfill in less than 2 years. We're crazy. First of all, because there's not going to be enough forest. You would go like this. There's not going to be enough landfills, and there's definitely not going to be enough water because each of those t-shirts takes 7,000 liters of water. Okay, so this is, as I said, this was the vision of the company: stop using natural resources in a careless way and create this new generation of recycled products. Where if I don't tell you to recycle, you would never know. We recycle a lot of different types of waste: plastic bottles, discarded fishing nets, used tires, post-consumer coffee, post-industrial cotton, wool, cashmere, etc. Basically, we have developed since then, as I said, hundreds of fabrics. Many of those hundreds are from plastic bottles. We probably around 200 come from those plastic bottles. We have right now, I think this figure is a bit old, but probably over 400 millions of plastic bottles recycled so far to create those fabrics. Okay? More or less, we need like 50 plastic bottles for every yard of fabric we produce. So that's why this garment uses around 70 plastic bottles. Okay, discarded fishing net. We only use the fishing nets, which are nylon 6, which is probably the best quality nylon you can get. For you to get an idea, from an old fishing net to this fabric is 7 chemical steps. From petrol, virgin petrol, to this same fabric, it would be 17 chemical steps. So that's why there's so much save in water, energy, and emissions. So you get the petrol, you make the polymer, you make the yarn, but we do the other way around. We get the fishing net, we do the polymer, we do the yarn. Right now, it's not only about fishing nets, because we're also mixing it with scraps of nylon from old carpets and many other different materials. We are using it a lot in our new yoga and sports collection. Use tires. This was the first project we did in Spain. We wanted to do the outsoles of our sneakers with using the used tires. I don't know if you've ever seen a used tire, but it's full of the interior, no? But it's full of metals, oxidants, textiles. So it's quite complicated material. So we made a joint venture with the company who collects all these used tires in Spain, and we started working with the Center for the Shoemaking in the north of Spain. And we did this project, which looks like a simple project, but it's received a lot of innovation prizes. It took us nearly 22 months to convert those used tires into micropowder, and everything is together without glue, without conglomerates. It's all made by heat. We at EcoAlf try to never move the waste around. So at the end of the day, if we recycle the used tires in Spain, then we make the flip-flop in Spain. Okay, you will see if we recycle like this the coffee in Taiwan, then we try to make all these yarns and fabric in Taiwan. Okay, this was also started working in 2014 with a partner in Taiwan who was collecting the used coffee grounds from the cafeterias every morning, the humid compound. That humid compound is dried out, converted into powder, and mixed with plastic polymers. And what's the good thing about coffee? That it has a lot of natural properties. No? So at the end of the day, it's fast drying, it's auto control, it's UV protection. Okay, so these fabrics you're seeing now are all made with this coffee content. And cotton. Well, I think people are not aware, but cotton has a big problem, which is very intensive in water. So you need a lot of cotton. You need a lot of water to create a sweatshirt, a t-shirt, a polo. We started recycling cotton back in 2013. It's not easy to work with because at the end of the day, you get the leftovers of the cotton, you cut them out, and you get a very short and even and stable yarn. So it's easier for sweatshirts and pants and more heavy qualities. But if you want to make something very thin, very transparent, the yarn breaks. Okay. When we started with this, I remember we launched this amazing yarn, which was 50% recycled cotton, 50% recycled polyester. We were saving millions of liters of water, but then we realized it wasn't the proper thing to do because, I mean, as EcoAlf, we are now for many, many years very concerned with circularity of our product. And the circularity, if you're mixing two different yarns, like cotton and polyester, makes it very complicated. So right now, I mean, for the last 4 years, we work, more than 80% of our fabrics go with mono yarn. We don't mix any yarn. So right now, we mix the recycled cotton with organic cotton. So at the end of the day, it's very easy to recycle them again. Okay. And this is cotton, and this is wool. Wool and cashmere, well, I think especially wool has been recycled since many, many centuries. There's even a city in Italy called Prato, which is famous for recycling the wool. When we started, this recycling wool was more stiff, and right now the qualities are amazing. You would never see the difference. Okay. This is upcycling the oceans. Upcycling the oceans is probably our most ambitious project. And it started by accident. One day, talking with a fisherman, he said, Javier, you should come out and fish with me and see how much waste gets caught in the nets every time we pull up those nets. So, but along with the fish, there's a lot of waste. So I went out fishing with him and I realized, yeah, it was very shocking, no? See how that fish was coming out. So we decided to start a project we convinced 3 fishermen from a little port back in 2015 from Alicante, the east coast of Spain, to let us put a little container like the one you see in the drawing in the boats, and all that waste that gets collected when they pull up the nets, instead of throwing it back to the ocean, they would put it in their container and take it to the port. We would have big containers. We would collect every week that waste. We would take it to categorization plants where we would separate all the different types of waste, aluminum, glass, polypropylene, shoe, etc. And then we would take those plastic bottles and convert them into flake, pellet, yarn, fabric, and product, everything made in Spain. Okay? What started with 3 fishermen, now it's over 3,500 fishermen, 2021. And we've managed to take, over these years, more than 1,000 tons out of the ocean. Then we started, so basically we work in Spain with 85% of the trawling fleet in Spain. Okay, we're in right now at nearly 50 ports. It's an amazing job. We work with 6 categorization plants where we're taking all that waste, and 68% of that waste which we take out is put back into the system. Then we started working with the government of Thailand, who called us to help them replicate upcycling the oceans in Thailand. So we've been going there to help them replicate it in Koh Tao, Samui, Phuket, and Rayong. And now we are with a very ambitious project in the Eco Foundation, which is try to replicate upcycling the oceans in all the Mediterranean and try to create, if not the biggest, probably one of the biggest cleanup projects in the Mediterranean. We've already signed with, I think, 18 ports in Greece. We've signed the first one in Italy. We're about to sign 6 more in Italy in the next month, and probably 5 in France. But the idea is to do all the Mediterranean. Okay. I'm going to put, please, if you could help me, a little video, which is the testimonies of the fishermen which are involved in this project. So I think it's this testimony. If you can help me put this video in.
Aparatos del barco, hemos encontrado antenas, cañas de pescar, bicicletas, televisiones, botas, zapatos.
Ha una valigia piena di indumenti.
Un contenedor de basura. Neveras, hidroaviones.
Lavadoras, grifos de cerveza.
Ci sono qualsiasi cosa strana c'è anche a mare, purtroppo.
Los objetivos de Upcycling the Ocean son 3. El primero, aportar nuestro granito de arena en la limpieza del océano.
Que no cuesta nada coger y ponerlo en una bolsa, llegar en un puerto y depositarlo en un container. Es un simple gesto.
El segundo, concienciar y sensibilizar y demostrar que una solución es posible. Hay que empezar a atacar el problema desde el origen.
El mar lo estamos contaminando todos, que la contaminación empieza desde casa.
Sin la ayuda de la ciudadanía, por mucho que los pescadores luchemos, pienso que no va a servir de nada.
Y el tercero, fomentar la economía circular y transmitir que la basura tiene un valor.
Si solamente nos limitamos en traer la porquería a puerto, estamos cojos.
Lo que el pescador nos costaba de entender, al menos a mi modo de ver, era recoger algo y que se quedara en el muelle.
Necesitamos el siguiente eslabón, que es que alguien coja lo que nosotros traemos y estemos seguros de que eso no va a volver de ninguna forma otra vez a la mar. ¿Cómo? Reciclaje.
A mí me gustaría agradecer a los pescadores porque este proyecto lo hacen con el corazón. Lo hacen porque creen que es lo correcto, lo hacen por su amor a los océanos. Creo que son un gran ejemplo para todos nosotros.
Κατάσταση στη Μεσόγειο φυσικά και με ανησυχεί, γιατί είναι ένα επάγγελμα που έχουμε μεγαλώσει και έχουμε μεγαλώσει και τα παιδιά μας από αυτό. Και δεν θέλουμε να σταματήσει ποτέ.
Y se va mentalizando la gente y yo pienso que llegará un momento en que esto se consiga algo.
Que el día de mañana puedes decir, mira, yo he contribuido a limpiar este mar.
Entonces tenemos que ir trabajando ya.
Es un paso fácil a hacer.
Si la gente pone un poco de su parte, el mar no tendría por qué sufrir lo que está sufriendo.
Okay, and now we're going to put another video, very short video, which explains how we collect that waste from the ocean and how we transform it into yarn and fabric. waste we collected from the ocean. We call it ocean waste because all the upper part is made with the polyester from the plastic bottles we collected from the ocean, and all the outsole was made from algae. So that's why this sneaker has been considered the sneaker with less carbon emissions of the market. Since I think it's 2018, when you buy a garment from EcoAlb, you can have this traceability, where you can have, we're audited by an external company for every garment, so you can see in terms of sustainability, water usage, materials, etc., how sustainable that is. I think it was a way to be as transparent as possible and also improve every day. Finally, the company was launched in 2013, as I said. Since then, we've made a few collaborations with many companies around the world, developing for them a lot of recycled fabrics and creating collections which have been awarded, like this one, Best Vegan Collection for 2 seasons. Right now, we're in many different projects, which are not only in fashion, but also like in furniture. At the end of the day, what do we want in these projects? We want them to be, they have to be innovative, they have to be, of course, take sustainability to the next level, and they have to have design. So when you see this this collection of sofas, it's amazing because, of course, the fabrics are made by recycled materials. But the amazing thing is that we're collecting the old mattresses you throw away. In Spain, there's over 1 million mattresses thrown into landfill every year. We're collecting with a partner those mattresses and creating all the internal part is made with this foam. So it's a completely circular project. And at the end of the life cycle of the sofas, you can easily separate it into 2 materials, so they're easy to recycle them again. Okay. Basically, we are a multi-channel company. We sell through wholesale more than 5,000 stores in Europe. We have a few own brand stores in Madrid, in Berlin, in Tokyo. Now we just opened in Paris. We're opening another in Barcelona. This is our claim, because there's no planet B, which is a claim we registered in 2014 in over, 35 countries. And we have all our friends and clients and people always sending us t-shirts, sweatshirts, bags all over the world with the claim, creating this because there's no planet B movement. We were the first fashion company in Spain in 2018 to be B Corp certified. So I don't know if some of you guys know what it's B Corp, but for me, it's the most complete audit you can get. Basically, it measures everything. It's very complete. And I love the claim. No, it's not necessarily the biggest companies in the world, but probably the best for the world. And we're also the first GRS company in Spain, Global Recycle Standard. So we have a total traceability from the waste to the final product. So all the chain is completely transparent and trustable. Okay. So just to finish out, I'm going to put this video which shows what has been this year's, well, it was made for the 10th anniversary, nearly 2 years ago, and explains a little bit what we've done over this 10 years and our commitments for the next years. So this would Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, and absolutely happy to answer any questions you may have. So here I am, if you feel there's any questions you want to ask. This is a question. Fashion should stop changing the way we're supposed to dress. Is it possible to slow down the way fashion change? Well, I think fashion. I'm not sure if they're supposed to change the way we're supposed to dress. I think what we have to change is the way we buy. I think what we have is a big problem. The way we buy. No, when I go to universities and I see a lot of young people, and they want. No, I mean, they believe that there's a problem. They want to be as sustainable as possible. They want to keep on buying 10 t-shirts for 5 years every year. Well, that's not possible anymore. You have to decide, okay? And they always say, what should we do? I say, buy less. You don't need 10 t-shirts for 5 years, okay? I think we have to start working more in buying quality instead of quantity, buying less, and buying products where you feel the footprint you're leaving is you know what footprint it is, and I think and you're comfortable with that footprint. No? I think that's where we need to focus. Well, waste. Basically, as you can imagine, there's huge amount of waste. The thing is, we're not able to make waste with. We're not able to make yarn with every type of waste. So basically, we're focused on the type of waste that we can make yarn and products of. No, that's what we focus on. Of course, plastic bottles is soon nets, but there's a lot right now. For example, there's a lot of textile waste, and with the textile waste, we have a problem because first of all, there's still not a clear way of collecting that waste, and for small companies like EcoAlf, we cannot create the technology to convert all that textile waste again into yarn. So right now we are in many projects right now with other companies and stakeholders, but we find many problems. So the first problem, I said it before, is that unfortunately a lot of materials are not monomaterials, so they're mixing yarns. So that makes it very difficult to recycle. And then unfortunately, one of the other big problems is that the low quality of fast fashion makes it that even when you're able to recycle those yarns again, of those old products, the resultant yarn is so bad in terms of quality, which you're not able to use again to make clothing. So you have to make scraps, or you have to make, but it's a downcycling more than upcycling. So that it's a huge problem right now. That would be, this question is fantastic. No, can you do anything to block plastic waste directly where rivers meet the sea? This would be the biggest solution. We've started a project now in Spain in collaboration with Biotherm, a cosmetic company, where we said, okay, let's try to work on one river. So we selected one river, it's 150 kilometers long, and we're cleaning nearly every week, 1 day a week. And basically it's a 3-year program. We want to be cleaning by steps, and trying to do it as a showcase to say, okay, if the river is clean, the ocean will be clean. What you say, we have tried to block and talk with, in Spain, I'm talking about Spain, with local authorities, let us put this kind of barriers, which they could go 30 meters below the water, so the fish could go below, but we could stop all that waste coming. And we haven't been able. Unfortunately, at least the authorities in Spain, they don't let us put barriers in the rivers because they say there's a lot of traffic of boats, etc. So they're not allowed. But that would be an amazing solution, stopping all that waste before it's getting to the ocean, of course. There will be ever a future where we stop completely producing plastic. Well, as I said before, I have nothing against plastic. I think plastic is fantastic for many usages. For medical reasons, it's incredible. For construction, for a lot of things. No? What we have to stop using is plastic for stupid things, and for products which have a span life of 3 seconds. No, That's where we have to stop, hopefully producing that plastic and consuming that plastic for that purpose, no? Really nice dresses and accessories. Does color impact on sustainability of fashion products? Well, more than colors, what it impacts a lot is the dyeing materials you use. So, and this is important. It's important that also customers understand. No, I remember a few years ago, coming back from that trip in India, we launched this natural dye collection made of polos and T-shirts and sweatshirts, and a lot of clients returned them back because what they said, Javier, but you've sent me 50 polos and they all have a different blue, and of course, it's because natural dye. That's the idea, no? And the clients, which when I'm talking clients, because we sell to stores, really didn't understand that fact. So I think there's a lot of education to be done behind. So we need to start saying, okay, if we want to use natural dye factors, then the clients, natural dye colors, then the clients need to understand that the color won't be exactly the same in all the materials. But I think dyeing materials is a huge pollution problem. Okay, they're telling me, unfortunately, that this is the last question. So I would stay here answering a lot of questions, but unfortunately, they tell me that there's the next speaker coming up. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend, and it's been a pleasure to be with all of you.